Are you playing Ornn and do you want some LP? Well, hey, let's talk about it. I've been playing Ornn every single game and I'm hovering around top 100 NA. So I thought I would give you guys my kind of personal tier list and who I think are some of the best users. We're going to be using some of the data here. I was just going to make a straight up tier list over here in Meta TFT, but unfortunately they don't have all of the actual Ornn items here. So we're just going to be going through the stats right here and talking about some of the best users and all that good stuff and how good these items are if you guys are trying to climb on North America or just climb in general, of course. So let's go through here and let's just start up with Monozane. So we have it sorted by highest placement. Monozane is one of the best items right now. And I'll be talking about a lot of this on taking it on 2-1 because that is when you're going to be offered an Ornn item every single game unless you take Latent Forge. So when I rank how strong they are, it's going to be more specifically on 2-1 as well. So Monozane is usually an insta-pick, especially if you have AP items or an upgraded backliner that can use this. Almost every single upgraded backliner in the early game can use it. It's great on all the AP carries like Cassio, Malzahar. It's great on Samira, that sort of thing. So it's just a really good item. And then you transition it later to Silco. Silco is the best indicator or best person to use it. Like usually when I get Monozane, that's a very good indicator to play Sorks or to play Strategist Azir. And this item is just insane on Silco. Also amazing on Ahri, but you don't know if you're going to hit Ahri. And then if you end up playing Challengers, it is pretty solid on Kai'Sa as well. Next up is Anima Visage. So Anima Visage has a very good average placement rate, and that is because it is the best item to put onto Cho'Gath, and Cho'Gath is an amazing carry. Now, I don't always take Anima Visage. The circumstances that I would like to take Anima Visage, it's very good, is when I have an upgraded tank, upgraded frontliner, and I have tank items. Then this item is insane. Think about like starting the game with like a Poppy Demacia opener. I mean, she's unkillable. This is crazy. Or you're doing a Demacia opener comboed with a Galio Redemption with his upgraded Redemption. It is pretty crazy. So if you have an upgraded frontliner, the Spirit Visage is great. And this is oftentimes a very good indicator to play Strategist Azir again. So a lot of people get it twisted about Strategist Azir. They think that you need, and even I in the past as well, they think that you need Azir's items or you need Silco's items. What you actually need is Nazis's items, because Nazus is actually the true carry of the comp. You have to buy so much time for your Azir and Silco to get the job done. And sometimes you don't even run Silco in the comp. So that's why it's so much more important to get Nazus items. So a lot of times if I get a start like this, it's a very good indicator to play that. I also will tech this and play the Mordekaiser build that I like to play. Guide on that is on the channel if you guys want to learn how to play Mordekaiser Slayers. Then I just put this on my Sejuani, and occasionally it can go on my Mordekaiser as well. He scales very well with HP. But very good item. I really like Anima Visage. Okay, Zhonya's. Zhonya's is an interesting item. It's very good in most situations. I really like it. It's really good for like early game, especially when you have like a low roll opener. I find that if I just have like a Malzahar 2, but I have like no frontline, my Malzahar 2 will just like, it'll just give me great losses. He either wins me the fight or gets me great losses with the Zhonya's. So I really like Zhonya's. I think it's the stats on it are insane. They buffed it at the end of last set. And then oftentimes when you get Zhonya's, it's a very good indicator to play either Azir or Kai'Sa, as well as it's a pretty solid item on Mordekaiser as well. So if you guys know about the Mordekaiser tech, that's what I look to play. I look to play Mord or either of these two. It's very strong. Azir is very good with it, but don't fall into the trap of getting a Zhonya's means you have to play Azir. I see that even in my ELO. A lot of people, as soon as they get Zhonya's, they start slamming all the Azir items, and they're like, oh, bet, I'm playing Azir. But I don't necessarily think that's the best way to play it, because again, I think the indicator to play Azir is actually Nazus's items, and Dish Soap would agree to that too. I actually got that from Dish Soap, and Dish Soap defaults to that comp. The best player on our server right now. And so, yeah, I don't think when you take this, you just say, bet, I'm playing Azir. I think you can be a little bit more open, especially if you know how to play Mordekaiser and know how to play Challengers. Okay, Sniper's Focus. This one, I don't actually insta-pick this one. A lot of people would say this is like one of the best items. You insta-pick it every time. If I get this offered on 2-1, I honestly, I would rather take Hole Crusher, Tricksters a lot of times, Zhonya's, Anima Visage, or Monozane. Sometimes I'd rather even take Deathfire Grass a lot of times. So the reason why I don't necessarily like taking Sniper's Focus on 2-1 is because it doesn't really do that much for me on 2-1. The stats are pretty solid, but this item is really, really, really strong later in the game. So if I get this offered on like Latent Forge or something like that, then this is really great because Sniper's Focus is great on pretty much all the meta carries. It's great on Azir. It's great on Kai'Sa. It's great on Quinn if you play Slayers. It's great on Mordekaiser. It's great on to a lot of carries, right? It's great on Nyla, of course. It's good on Xayah. So it's a really, really, really good item, but I don't insta-pick it on 2-1 because all the other items that I talked about before, they do a lot more for you on 2-1, and I like to play up-tempo. Especially with everyone rerolling, I like to be stronger early in the game because they're going to spike a little on the mid game, right? And I don't want to be punished in the mid game for playing a weak early game. So yeah, it's great on all these units that it shows here. Great on Mordekaiser, it doesn't show here as well. But yeah, I don't insta take this, but pretty solid. All right, Hole Crusher. Hole Crusher, I really, 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 really like. So if I don't get offered any of the ones that I think are super OP, like Anima Visage with a Giga Tank or Mana Zane, or some of the Shimmer Scale items that I'm trying to use to farm, then I'll take Hole Crusher a lot of times. I really like Hole Crusher. The stats on it are just great tank stats. And I find it to be really flexible. I can play it on my Mordekaiser carry if I end up playing Mordekaiser. I can play it on Rogues if I'm playing like Kiana carry with like Kiana or Graves carry with like the Sterex BT build. It's actually pretty solid on them. It's good on Nasus as well. It's good on a lot of tanks. It's so I just really like this item. I think it's very solid. And so I just generally take this and I think it's really good for early tempo. I'd say it's like solid. It's not an insta pick. I'd rather have all the other ones I talked about already, except for Sniper's Focus. But yeah, it's pretty solid. Okay, Trickster's Glass. Trickster's Glass is really good for tempo. It's especially good if you want to play around like Talia and that sort of thing, or you have an Noxus opener. I really, really, really like it with Noxus opener because two Samiras stack on top of each other. The armor shred stacks on top of each other. So if you put two Samiras next to each other, you will very quickly shred down their tanks. And so I really like that. As well as Cassiopeia is great with it as well. So if you have two Cassiopeias, one with Trickster's Glass, then one will heal introduce for the other one, and it does a whole lot of damage. So I really like Trickster's Glass for early game tempo. And as far as in game, I just put it on a really valuable unit. So if you're playing like vertical Sorks, it can go on one of your Sorks, and you're getting a lot of value off of that, right? Like I'll put it on like a Silco or something like that. You're getting a lot of value, but really, I just play this item for tempo, and then I'll put it on like a Scion. I'm guaranteed to get value on Scion. A lot of people want to put it on Jarvan, and if your other Jarvan cast, then it's really, really, really worth. But a lot of times the other Jarvan doesn't cast, I'm just being honest. So I'll just put on a really high value legendary like Scion or Aatrox, where I'm guaranteed to get value of having two of them on my board. But other than that, I just really like to play this for tempo. I think it's pretty solid, but I would rather take Zhonya's, Anima Visage, Mana Zane, and Hole Crusher most of the time. All right, next up is Infinity Force. And Infinity Force is a weird one because it just kind of does everything, but doesn't do anything like really good. Like it does everything fine, but not a single thing better than anything else. So I don't necessarily like taking this item, but it is fine, and it is good on pretty much everybody. It's especially good on AD carries. I really like it on AD carries. I just think a lot of the AP carries have more strict itemization. I think Azir has more items that he really wants. Mordekaiser wants very different items. And so, I think if you're going to want to play AD lines, it's very good. I think this item is really good if we're in an AD meta, but at the time we make this video, I think playing AD lines are kind of weird, except for if you're like going to flex challengers, like it's weird. I don't like playing Vanquishers. I don't like playing Aphelios unless I'm playing reroll Gunners. So I don't really like taking this one because I think it's not as good on the AP units, but you can take it. It's pretty solid, especially if you have like a Noxus opener. It's great on Samira. Great on if you have an AD opener. Great on Jinx, that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't really like to pick this one that much. All right, Deathfire's Grass. Deathfire Grass is a great one. I usually opt to take, of the AP item ones, I usually opt to take Zhonya's or Mana Zane because I'm a lot more comfortable using those and teching that into Azir, which is a more comfortable comp to me. Now, Deathfire Grass obviously can be good in Azir. Put it on your Silco. It's great. But when I get this item, I lean a little bit more towards Sorks. And I don't really like to flex into challengers unless the game is really pushing me into it. So I do think it's great on Kai'Sa. It's great on Silco. Great on any sort carry. It can be fine on Azir. I just think other items are better on Azir. And if you're going to be playing Azir, you're probably playing Silco, so you put the item on Silco. This item is great for tempo, especially if you have an upgraded Malzahar or upgraded Cassiopeia in the early game. But yeah, I would rather take Monazanes or Zhonya's usually. But Deathfire Grass is a very good pick overall. But yeah, I usually lean more towards Sorks and that sort of thing when I get this item. Eternal Winter. Now, Eternal Winter is not as good as it used to be. Eternal Winter is a very good item, but it is not an insta-pick for me. Now, if you have like a 2-star Poppy in the early game, this can be an insta-pick. If you have a 2-star Poppy with Demacia, you're going to get so much value on this. Or you have like a Stone and Nico opener, and your Nico's on the front line solo. That can be like, you're going to get so much value. And in that way, that'd be an insta-pick. But usually, if I have the choice between Eternal Winter and Anima Visage, and I have like a super tank, I'll usually opt for the Anima Visage. And the reason is because it just allows me to play a super tank later. And the comps that I like to play really support super tanks like Nasus. And if I play the Slayer comp like Sejuani. I usually opt for the Anima Visage, but Eternal Winter is great. It's not as free of a win as it used to be. But yeah, pretty solid. And you just put it on a super tank, which is going to be Sejuani, Nasus, or Shin. And in the early game, you just put it on your upgraded frontliner. And so what a lot of people get twisted about Eternal Winter, so in the early game, you do want to like solo frontline a really good unit. But later on in the game, usually you don't need to solo frontline, and you don't even need to have them on the edges. Now, if you're fighting against like an Aphelios, you do want to have them on the edge in front of the Aphelios. But most carries in the end game have AoE abilities, so you're going to get value on your Eternal Winter no matter where you position them. Usually, as long as it's on like the same side as the board as the carry. But you don't need to like put it on the edge or solo frontline or something like that. Okay, Death's Defiance. Death's Defiance is a very specific item to me. It's kind of niche. I like it, but it's kind of niche. I definitely prefer Eternal Winter, Deathfire Grass, Tricksters, Hull Crushers, Snipers, Zhonya's, Anima Visage, and Monazane to it. I prefer that 90% of the time. Now, sometimes I will take this. Like I had a first place Cho'Gath game today with this item. This item is okay on Cho'Gath. It just happened to that game. I got offered Death's Defiance, and then I had items to build Sterix, and I ended up building like an AD Cho'Gath, and I first placed the game in a very high elo lobby. So I don't prefer to take this. If you want to have a tankier item, I would prefer Anima Visage, but if you have to take this, it's fine. Just put it on your tank, and then it can be fine on carries like Cho'Gath. It can be good on to Nyla. It's great on Fiora. It's like one of her best in slots. So usually if I get this, I'm not too happy, but yeah, I will try to play like Fiora or Mordekaiser. It can be good on Mordekaiser as well, although I do not prefer it. All right, Gold Collector. I pretty much never take Gold Collector. I have a lot of people in my chat come in and they see me offered Gold Collector and they're like, isn't Gold Collector an instant first? Now, Gold Collector is a solid item. It's just not very good in the current meta. I think playing AD is significantly harder than playing AP. And so the only time I would ever take this is if I have like an upgraded Samira 2 and I have like Infinity Edge on my bench, like the components to build Infinity Edge, and I'll be like, okay, shoot, I'll just build Infinity Edge and Gold Collector and I'll play an AD comp this game and I'll just use this to get super far ahead and I'll flex around, Zaya or Aphelios. But I just think AD flex is not very good right now. I think AP flex is a lot better, or just you're better off rerolling, and Gold Collector does not support either of those playstyles. So yeah, if you take Gold Collector, usually it's if I have an upgraded AD carry and I can tempo really, really hard with it, and then I will probably try to play Aphelios. I don't really like playing Vanquishers, but if you play Vanquishers and go there, I'm not going to talk about Blacksmith's Gloves. This just goes on an upgraded powerful unit, like an upgraded Legendary, or like a 2-star Fiora or something, or like it's great on Nyla. Of course, you're playing like Vanquishers and you didn't build Nyla items, it goes on your Nyla, so I don't feel like I need to talk about that. All right, Mogul's Mail does not have a great placement rate, and that is because Mogul's Mail is extremely specific on when you take it. I just had a Mogul's Mail game where I got second place, and I definitely used the value of Mogul's Mail. So Mogul's Mail is a win more item, so you do not take this if you have a really weak front line. If you have an upgraded front line and a weak back line on 2-1, you can take this to get some tempo from it. That is fine, but the best scenario is when you're like really strong, you're really high roll, right? You have an upgraded, you have an upgraded Poppy or upgraded Kassadin. What I actually had, I had a 2-star Kassadin on 2-2. And so I took this on 2-1. I had a cast in pair. I actually had a duplicator, and I was like, okay, so I'll hold this, and if I don't get the cast in 2 early, I'll duplicate it, and I'll gain a lot of value from this. But I ended up hitting the cast in 2 on 2-2. So that's why I took it. If you have an upgraded frontliner, you're going to use this to get a lot of tempo. I just use this to get an earlier level 7. I was very contested for Azir, and so I built super tank items, and so I knew I was playing Azir, and so I knew that I could roll down before the other Azir players. There were like 5 Azir players in my lobby. It was pretty crazy, and of course, I got to roll earlier than them. I actually rolled on Wolves, and I got an upgraded Nasus before them, and a guy literally FF'd when he saw me get a 2-star Nasus. So, yeah, it's more of a win more item. You need an upgraded tank, and then in-game, it just goes on your super tank, or it can go on your off tank if you have better tank items. Because like Mogul's Mail is good once it stacks out on your super tank, but you got to make sure you can. Now, this did go on my upgraded Nasus because I knew I'd be able to do it. The lobby was super AP heavy, and I built a Declaw. I built a Declaw and a Bramble, so I was like, yeah, this guy's going to stack this up. So it still went on my super tank, but it can go on your off tank. All right, Goldmancer. Goldmancer is another one that is more of a win more, and it's not showing me stats because Tactics.Tools website is really weird. You have to scroll down, but there's no more area to scroll, so we don't see stats. Goldmancer is another one that's a win more. So I only take this if I'm really high roll. So I have like a 2-star Malzahar and like a Void Opener with a 2-star Cho'Gath and a 2-star Cho'Gath and like a 2-star Renekton, and I have like a Kassadin 1 or something like that. I only take it in that circumstance. Other than that, I would almost always want to take Monozane or Deathfire over this item if you have an AP opener. But if I have this like really powerful AP opener and I think I can win more and I can get super far ahead and just hit my board, especially if I'm contested for Sorks or Strategist Azir or whatever, then I'll take this. But this item really falls off late game. I just put it on like, I never put it on my main carry. Like if I was carrying Azir, then it would go on my Silco or would maybe just go on a random unit. Sometimes I'll take this in tempo into Mordekaiser, which I do not think is very good actually. But sometimes I'll take this in tempo into Mordekaiser and it just goes on my Kayle, my useless Kayle. It's like I'm literally down a gold augment once I get there, but it just helps me tempo. So it's more of a win more. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much all the Ornn items there. I hope that's helpful to you guys. Good luck climbing. And hey, check out my stream. Press the subscribe button, guys. I stream here on YouTube. Appreciate you guys.